Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
To Super Movie Brothers, episode 158. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Hey, Jay, we missed you last week, buddy, so let's find out.
Did you?
Yeah. Let's find out what you've been up to this week, man.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Got your head to the sides and I'm angry.
All right, man, so what'd you get down to? What'd you get up to doing this week? Anything fun? Anything interesting? What kept you away from us all last week?
Oh, well,
I'd say inquiring minds want to know, but really they don't care.
Really, it's just because I didn't watch anything.
Yeah, that's
essentially what it was about. And
I texted you and I was like, hey, did you watch anything new? And you're like, no. And I was like, Did you see Toy Story 4? No. Child's Play? No.
Nothing.
Did you watch anything interesting that you want to talk about? No. And I was like, all right, well, then what's the point of having you on the show?
I was headstrong into a couple series that I was not finished. I couldn't talk about yet. And, you know, Too Young to Die Old.
Never heard of it. Don't care about it.
It's Nicholas Winding Refn's new series, or what he likes to say is a 13-hour movie on Amazon Prime, now streaming.
Yeah, okay. I'm immediately now turned off anytime it's being described this way.
First of all, it's heavy Nicholas Winding Refn. Like, if you didn't like Neon Demon,
I didn't.
You will definitely not like this. Like, This is in the vein of like super stylistic, narcissistic kind of pretentious filmmaking to its umpteenth degree.
Yeah.
And there's maybe 3 good episodes out of the 10, I think.
Right. Okay.
So
hard pass.
It's a hard pass.
Hard pass.
And this is coming from like a hit or miss fan. Like, even like his misses for me, there's moments in there that I can appreciate, and it's still with the series as well. But it was a hard sit. But other than that, I mean, honestly, I was supposed to go up to the mountains. My buddy got sick. I didn't go. I discovered like, just like you and Lauren, flat broke, and couldn't really even afford to even go out and do anything fun on my time off. So I just sort of lay low, caught up with some other stuff, with some different kind of TVs and movie shows and whatever. So it was one of those things where, like, I'm now gearing up towards 4th of July and just going through the motions and just trying to get through summer.
Just to add to what me and Lauren were kind of discussing last week about like how everything is just like tumbling down on top of us. It feels like
we had to actually postpone our little trip. You and I were going to go see John in Tennessee
because everything's just going bad right now.
And yeah, it sucks. It's unfortunate, but you know.
Well, on top of that,
things will work out.
We had a little bit of like another mishap over the week. Came home from work on Friday, and I was just like, man, what the hell's wrong with Baby? Baby is our other dog. I know we talk about Luca a lot, but Baby is our other dog. She's a border collie mix, and she was just laying by her water bowl, just like laying there, like practically lifeless. Like I could pick up her head and then let go, and her head would just drop to the ground. But she's still breathing and stuff. And then she would muster up the strength to get up, drink a whole mess of water, and then need to go outside. And that's what was going on. She was going through these spells of like fatigue, drinking massive amounts of water. If you didn't stay up all night to let her out every 20 minutes or so, she was peeing in the house. So I started getting worried.
It sounds like she needs blowfish.
So I started getting like extremely worried. Like I was like there was a point where I was in tears on Friday night because like the way this dog was looking, like she was unresponsive to her name, unresponsive to touch, all this stuff. And like it was to the point where like she had very low, shallow breath. And I was like, all right, well, this is it. I have to say goodbye to my dog. And like I was begging Lauren to take her to the emergency vet. And, you know, we decided to hold off for a day. Then the next day came and she was a little bit better. She started like coming back a little bit. And then the next day, a little bit better again. But like she was still doing this massive amounts of water drinking and stuff. And we took her to the vet. And again, it's just another thing we're going to have to pay for. So while all that is going on and I'm dealing with like the mortality of of my dog, I decided to watch A Dog's Journey. So you might remember like 2 years ago.
Torture yourself, man.
There's this movie, A Dog's Purpose, which wasn't great, but you know me and dog movies. I just like dog movies,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Right? And so I'm watching this dog movie, which the whole point of the dog movie is that the dog dies, gets reincarnated, touches somebody's heart, dies again, and is reincarnated until he gets back to his purpose or his mission. In this case, it was his journey. So it's like it's not great filmmaking. It's not great. It is just heartwarming, just absolute schmaltz at its core. And I spent the entire time crying over my dog and her mortality, crying over this movie, and I was just a weekend of tears. Dude, it got to the point, not to mention I took my daughter to see Toy Story 4 and I cried. And again, my daughter's like, "Are you crying?" And she's like, It's okay. It's okay. It's just a movie. Woody's gonna be fine." And I was like, just stop. I feel like my daughter's pandering me. So yeah, I was a big sap this weekend. I just spent like most of my weekend crying, and then I get to work and 3 people are out. I'm working 11-hour days, 3 days, 11 hours, all those days like right in a row. It was just killing me. My work phone was ringing nonstop. I had nonstop work and everything needed like a special touch. It was like one of those things where it's like, you know how like customer service, you always want to go the extra mile for somebody, but at some point, like, I've walked 500 miles and I can't walk 500 more.
Yes.
I'm done. I'm fucking done. I was like to my breaking point, and then I remembered like, oh yeah, 4th of July.
Especially this week, everybody's done.
I know.
Everyone's checked out.
So it was just, dude, it was just a hell of a week. And, we've had to make like a lot of phone calls and stuff to like our bill collectors and stuff like that. Cause we just need to like move around when some bills are being paid and stuff like that. We're not saying we don't want to pay them anymore, that we can't. We just want to move around when we're paying them. And one of the things I realized that like when Lauren is on the phone with customer service representatives is she is an absolute insane maniac. Like she goes from polite to just like yelling at them, like at the drop of a dime. Like, and it's always like strange.
That's the Trenton girl.
Yeah,
in her.
it's always strange because like sometimes like I feel like even if it's like an innocuous slight that like that person did, like I feel like so that I don't get in trouble, I have to match her outrage. You know what I mean? Like I have to start getting mad too because it's like why are you mad? I'm just mad for you. Just thanks, babe. That's like one of those things like when you're married. Like I realize like when your wife's mad about something, you too should also be outraged. Unless their ire gets pointed towards you, sir.
That's ironic because I've just thought about that somewhat recently with a previous girlfriend that was doing that, was almost like testing me or egging me on to see if I was going to get mad about something. And I couldn't. I didn't want to say, but I was like, it's your own fault.
Well,
like you brought this upon yourself. Like,
well, that was like today. Like,
what am I going to get mad at for them? Because you're the one that's kind of in the wrong.
They announced that the actress recently today. They announced that the actress from I think it's Blackish and Grownish is going to be playing Ariel in in the live action
Haley
remake.
Bailey,
yes,
instead of Barry.
So and I'm sitting there and I was like, oh yeah, so she's from Black. Oh, so she's black. And my wife's like, yeah, she's black. She's like, you should check out the comments on this. And I was like, I don't want to.
You don't need to. I mean, you can get the gist. I mean, it's going to be extremely divisive.
But like Lauren was like outraged by it, and to me I was like, people are gonna like,
well, she was outraged. I mean, everybody knows by now Facebook and Instagram was down for a majority of the day, and she was just like outraged. So many people would post like this one article about why it was down, and I'm like, why does that bother you so much? Like,
so like I just want to know, like, for other
stating the obvious, I think is obviously something that's obviously gets on her skin, right?
Other married people who are listening, other married guys, I just need to know, like, is this something you have to do too, or is my wife just really that crazy? Like, do you have to?
I don't think you're alone.
Do you have to match your wife's ire? Like when she's upset, do you have to like match her level of upset at the thing that she's upset at, just to make sure that nothing gets turned? Because I think that's what's it. Like, you're afraid that when they're mad, they're going to find something else that you should have done or didn't do, and that rage is going to get transferred.
It will get transferred unless unless you get back up to their level, then they're going to think that you're like a teammate. Like you're on the same page.
Just a fucking week, man. I've had to pretend to be angry, and I've just been not depressed, but I've just been down. I've just been down in the dumps, man. Luckily, I guess I should say we did take baby to the vet. The vet wasn't extremely worried. They're like, oh, she's an old girl, There could be any number of reasons she's drinking that much water. And then she starts running out. There's a thing called Cushing's disorder, which is like cysts growing on her pituitary that would cause her to drink a lot of water. They can treat that with medication. It could be,
and it's summer. She just could have had a quick little flu.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
who knows?
And they're also telling me that it could be diabetes, it could be kidney disease, it could be liver disease, it could be cancer, it could be. And I was like, okay, and they're like, but it could also be bladder stones or kidney stones, and she's drinking the water to try to pass the stone, or she could just have a UTI. And I was like, okay, cool.
Anything else?
Yeah. So it's like, so she could have absolutely nothing to something that could be cleared up with, just a little bit of antibiotics to certain death. Cool.
Right.
You've put me at ease.
Yes.
Thank you. Where do I pay my $900 to the vet for doing all these blood tests and stuff? And then you come back and tell me that you're unsure. Thanks. It's cool.
Oh, God.
Where do I go? Where do I go? That's hyperbole. We didn't spend that much at the vet, but
but in theory, that's kind of what it would cost.
Right. So, but I mean, so now
minimum for a surgery or something.
So now, like whenever we find out what it is, whenever we return to the vet, we're gonna have to pay like another office fee and all that stuff to get the treatment and for the check her out again. It's like, oh, God damn it. So yeah, between pipes bursting, student loans getting refinanced, all this, and now the dog, like all this money stuff just keeps piling
I
up.
guess that's what savings accounts are for, I guess.
Yeah, and we've burned
these
through.
Rainy day.
We're burning through
shit
ours.
show things that happen.
And like one of the things that really like pisses me off is like, when people are like, money can't buy you happiness. And I was like, I hate when people say that, because I go, you know what? It can't buy you happiness, but fuck, it can buy you blissful ignorance and peace of mind.
Peace of mind. And the chance to pursue happiness. Come on. I always argue about that too. I say the exact same thing you just said.
That's all I want is I just want blissful ignorance in life. Because if money can buy me that, if money can buy me, like, I'm not saying life would be stress free, but if it could buy me buy me out of the stress of just like, will I make these bills this month?
There's no greater stress than that, right?
Right. And when will I be seeing the guy to make me new IDs so I can pretend that who I am is actually dead and a new person? If you get a new host on Super Movie Bros and he sounds just like me, it means Dave just changed his identity to escape his debts. All right, Jay, let's get into
What are you watching?
What are you watching?
What are we watching?
I think he's trying to watch some illegal channel.
Always watching. No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Well, as I mentioned before, Too Old to Die Young is streaming on Amazon Prime. If you are interested in Nicholas Winding Refn and very highly pretentious filmmaking,
you said his name.
Go seek it out.
You said his name 4 times now, and I'm like,
that's that.
I'm already sick of his name. What else did you watch?
He did Drive. Okay, it's one of my favorites of all time. So
yeah, I like that movie too. But
soft spot. Sorry, I got so after I saw that fucking series, I needed something the complete opposite.
Palate cleanse. Yeah,
I needed Zac Efron. That's what I needed. So I watched this horrible movie called "We Are Your Friends."
Oh, I
where
watched
he's trying to be a DJ.
I watched that movie.
It was the greatest thing that I needed. It just it completely washes you over. It's a stupid movie, not good music, and it was just an interesting take on
It's funny that you watch Zac Efron movies when you want to palate cleanse. I watch I watch Zach Braff movies when I need a palate cleanse.
Ooh,
yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Actually, I'm long overdue for a Zach Braff film.
Like Garden State. And
yeah.
I remember there's
Garden
the one
State.
where he's the guy who's like raising his kids and stuff like that. And like,
Right.
I can't even remember. But they're all just these like, they're like a little schmaltzy, a little indie, like a little alternative, like just put them on and just kind of feel good by the end of it. And it's a nice little palate cleanse.
Yeah, this is not worth your time at all. And another one that was unfortunately not worth your time is this big fancy ensemble movie called Morning Glory. It's an old rom-com with
Harrison Ford.
Harrison. Oh, you know this. Okay, Harrison Ford, and that's also on Amazon Prime.
I did this movie called
Diane Keaton, Rachel
Morning.
McAdams, Patrick Stewart, or Patrick Wilson, our boy, and
Patrick Wilson. I mean, I just took one look at that tall.
my God,
What a thing, you never even realize what they're, you know, they put you in front of the camera and they tell you to be a news anchor. And I'm like, what's my motivation?
it's exactly his character right there.
Yeah. Was he the weatherman?
No, he was just a legendary news guy that used to do important stuff like those old Dateline things.
Yeah.
Go on site in Afghanistan and report on something important, and then now he's kind of subjected to like a Today's Show type of news anchor thing,
Right,
morning talk show host.
Yeah.
So
I'm playing a character that just embodies me.
it just goes to show that I don't know why anybody would ever want to be a part of a show like that because it is so insane.
I would.
So
100%.
nutty.
100%. I don't care.
Rachel McAdams was perfect casting for her. She plays a producer, fast talking, wired up. She was great, adorable, but it was exhausting and it was just terrible filmmaking.
No thanks.
Terrible. Not worth the time either way. And then I saw Thelma and Louise. Thelma and Louise I haven't seen in ages, and it's one of those kind of silly little movies that's a classic.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott, early 90s.
Back when Ridley Scott was
I think it's maybe the first or second movie ever from Brad Pitt.
I always like to say, back when Ridley Scott was Ridley Scott. I mean, that's how,
Right.
Yeah. Back when Ridley Scott was a thing. When
And
he was a guy.
It's very dated, but it's all right. It's all right. It doesn't hold up quite
How much did
as well as I thought it
your
would.
pants rise when you saw Brad Pitt jumping on the bed shirtless, and he's playing with that blow dryer like it's a gun, and he's
so young looking. He looked like an adolescent boy. He was so skinny and
he was like in his early 20s back
baby
then.
faced.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Still got it.
It's a good role. It's a good role. Yeah, he still got it.
Even with the crow's
still
feet,
got it.
he's still got it.
Oh
So,
yeah, and then you just you see the new trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's like, oh man, he's been a legend forever.
For me, I obviously I got talked about. I watched A Dog's Journey, the sequel to A
Yes.
Dog's Purpose, with Josh Gad as the voice of the dog, and Dennis Quaid just being Dennis Quaid in a schmaltzy movie, and that's what Dennis Quaid does well. And you know
what
what?
he does.
He doesn't disappoint. He Dennis Quaid's the shit out of this movie. He does it just fine. A lot better than Randy Quaid could have done, because he just would have been screaming about the UFOs and the government watching him the whole time. Yeah, him and the dog would have been wearing tinfoil hats.
Yeah.
Would have been very strange. But it's whatever. If you like dog movies, just go watch the fucking dog movie. Bring a box of tissues. Drink your coffee in the morning while you watch. That's when I watch these movies. I watch these movies in the morning so that I can just I know I feel like I talk like I'm a female and stuff, but I drink my coffee and I just have a good cry, and it's like, all right, that is out of me now, and I'm just gonna go mow the lawn. I'm gonna go fix something. Other than that, I watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with my daughter. This time she
Nice.
actually sat down and watched the whole thing. The first time we watched it, she only wanted to be called in when Spider-Gwen was on the screen. This time she actually sat down and watched the whole thing. She found it funny. She really enjoyed it. She was asking me questions about Spider-Man and the Spider-Man universe. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? And it was like, yes, this is the beginning.
Keep asking me more.
I know.
More.
This is where I make my child be like me. And then when it was over, she wanted me to put on some Netflix show that looked like it was computer animated Japanese animation, but it takes place in France, and it's called Miraculous. It's spelled like miraculous, but they pronounce it Miraculous. And it's about Ladybug and Cat Noir. They are two superheroes that live in Paris who get their powers from tiny little aliens from outer space. And there's a guy called Dark Star Moth or something, whatever, who's trying to. Every episode, it's basically Power Rangers. Every episode, they make a new bad guy, and the two good guys take down the bad guy, and the next episode they make another bad guy, and the bad guys that they always make are one of their friends or one of their classmates or one of their parents' friends. And my daughter is absolutely in love with this show, and it is nonsensical dribble to me, but I was subjected to it for at least 2 hours until I finally went, you know what? No more screen time. We're going to go outside and we're going to play. And she's like, but it's hot out. And I was like, yeah. Anything to end this. anything to end this, I'm down for.
Look, she needs to be a kid.
I don't think
We
so.
used to do this shit.
Yeah, I know, but like, I'm just like, no more TV. I even took her tablet away from her. I was just like, just no more. I just can't take it anymore. You're learning too much from this stuff. And now, like, you know, when I was like growing up and parents would be like, I don't want you watching that or for this reason, or I used to be like, what's the difference? And then like now having a kid, I'm realizing that like if there's a sassy character or a character in a show who's like rude and stuff like that, and she thinks that's funny, she'll try to emulate that. But then who's she being rude to? Me. And then I was like, I finally get it. I now understand why parents were just like, you can't watch that. And I was like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it. I never wanted to be that parent, but now it's like,
Now you understand.
now I understand. Like we used to let her watch these YouTube videos where like this little girl like did them with her mom, but like the whole point of it was like she was always like extremely rude to her mom. I guess there's supposed to be like a lesson at the end, but my daughter didn't understand the lesson. She was just like, it was really funny when she like did this to her mom. And I was like, that's not funny. That's not funny at all. It's very rude. You don't get your tablet anymore. So now I'm that guy. And I never wanted to be that guy, but now I'm that guy.
It's only going to get worse, probably.
Yeah. And I was also extremely irritable this weekend because, like I said, the dog. I also wasn't sleeping because you know who's the one who's letting the dog out to pee when she has to pee in the middle of the night every 20 minutes? Yo.
Yeah.
It was me. So, yeah, other than that, man, I didn't get to watch anything.
Well, I did finally catch up. Also, I told you, I caught up. I finally caught up on some stuff. Upgrade. One of your
Yes.
favorite films of the last
2018.
couple. 2018, that's
Yeah,
right.
Logan
And
Marshall Green. Dope ass movie.
Dope ass movie.
I would never say like, you know, it's a fantastic movie, but I'd be like, that is a really fun movie with great visuals, awesome like violence, and just a pretty decent sci-fi story.
Absolutely. This reminds me a lot of Ex Machina, where it kind of flew under the radar, but it had a big cult following, but needs to be seen.
Yeah.
Because it was so good.
Well,
and so different. And it's like
to me
it's fun quality sci-fi.
Let's not compare it.
And it works and has a great ending, you know?
But let's not compare it to an Alex Garland film. I mean,
I'm not comparing.
This is Blumhouse presents.
I'm sorry.
Ex Machina, which is very.
This is a great Blumhouse film.
Right. This is like if the guys who make The Purge made an interesting film, and that's what they did.
Okay. No, I hear you. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to.
Credit where credit's due, but let's also forget that. Let's not forget they also produce a whole bunch of shit on top of that. Too. This comes from Lee Wanell, the Saw guy. Remember the first time you saw the first Saw, you were like, "That was really good." That's how I think about Upgrade. Like that was really good. That was a cool gimmick.
Yeah. If there's ever a sequel to this, it's gonna be trash.
It's gonna be trash. Exactly. Just like every Saw sequel was trash.
Right.
Even Lee Wanell, the guy who created Saw, I think he didn't even direct the second one or third one and stuff. I think it took until like the fourth one where he was like, you know what? I don't even want my name on it as producer anymore. I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to do it. So, like, yeah. So let's remember, those are the people who are making Upgrade.
Yes,
so
gotcha.
They, diamond in the rough. They kept throwing shit at walls and they hit. But aren't they also behind Happy Death Day too? And Happy Death Day to
Probably,
you, both of those.
dude.
I think
Who knows?
so. But like, and those are hits, and I really like those because those are like really self-aware type horror movies where it's like they get it, they know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and it works really well for an audience.
But honestly, guys, I mean, I don't know about you, Dave. When was the last time you were at a library? They have impressive DVD selections now.
Did they? I have
Very current.
I have Hoopla, which is a app that you can put your library card on, and you can rent.
So I'm not very savvy on that kind of stuff.
You can rent books. I rent comics. You can rent books, and you get to keep them for like 2 weeks. So that's what I do.
mean, I was just at the library recently. I'm looking through. I'm like, my God, there's like a ton of DVDs and like mostly pretty current. And yeah, so I got Upgrade, and I got this movie Wild that I'm gonna check out tomorrow night.
Isn't it crazy that like the 2019 version of a Blockbuster is your local library?
Yeah, seriously, and you get them for free. You know,
is there any hot librarians there?
No,
Ah.
still not. Nothing like that. Maybe in the city, but not in the suburbs.
When is the embodiment of that stereotype like ever going to come? When am I ever going to go into a library and be like, and just see this?
Yeah, where did I come from?
Where does it? I've never seen a librarian that was like, but where does that come from?
Where?
I've
never seen it ever.
We were just watching Stranger Things, where like Hopper apparently slept with the librarian. Stranger Things season 1, and she was
doable,
right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, for at least once, because we know Hopperoni did it once, because she's
Yeah.
very upset they never called her back. But like, I've never been. Every time I go to the library, it's always just like this woman who's just like, "Give me your library card," and then she rings up the books, and then like, I always feel like
late. You're getting charged $20.
yeah, like I always feel like she's like looking at like what I'm like taking out to, and like just judging me for it. Yeah, and she's just
You
like,
know they are. Of course they are.
"Oh, you're gonna read Catcher in the Rye?" And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, I have to read it for school and stuff. Yeah, I just never liked it. They all sound like what's her name from?
They're all like
from
low society snooty people or something like
Monster,
that, right?
Monsters Inc.
It's not bizarre.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Like that's how like every librarian I ever met like spoke. Like even the librarians at school and stuff. And I go to the local library and they're even uglier because they're county employees. But anyway, yeah. So good for you for the 2019 version of a blockbuster, your local library.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, I was trying to find something I knew wasn't on the streaming services right now, and I've been meaning to see over the last few years.
I think Upgrade is on one of the streaming services now.
See, it didn't. Well, it could be, but I don't recall it being on.
You're
something
more
for free.
adventurous than me. You're willing to leave the house. Me. My
is true.
My library is about a mile.
Yeah,
and a
my
half
job
away.
is across the street from a free library, so I'm like, all right.
my library is about a mile and a half away. Like it's not within walking distance.
Yeah.
But so I'd have to get into a car and leave the house to get there, and that's just not me these days. Is what I'm saying.
Well, maybe little Logan will. Go
I mean,
over there.
I
your daughter can go over and
my pipes are falling apart. My student loans are due. Our pets' heads are falling off.
my bowel movements are all off.
Don't even get me started. As I get older, I'm learning that my body has new ways of fucking with me when like I'm stressed, like can't get a boner. Like when I'm super stressed, that's it. That thing shuts down.
Well, that's to be expected.
Like solid poops, or even worse, when the poop is too solid. Like so
Then you're in for like 45 minutes.
So for me, like when I
get.
get extremely stressed becomes like a Russian roulette of just failing bodily functions. It's just like, you feel like you got to poop. Go ahead, sit down, Dave. Not happening, buddy. And I was like, but yesterday it was watery. What's going on? And it's just like crazy shit's happened. Don't change my diet. Only thing changing, stress. Like that's it. My body is just like fucking with me hard fucking core. And
you're also at that age.
we're supposed to be talking about movies. Why are we talking about movies?
This is part of the podcast.
This is
what we do.
This is an off the rails episode.
This is what we do.
This is more like Dave. All of Dave's problems aired out on a podcast, sprinkled with what movies they watched.
I like it. This is more like Patreon feel almost. We're just kind of like spitballing it, freewheeling, going off the rails. It's all good.
I'm super happy that you enjoyed Upgrade.
I did.
Right.
More than I expected.
Good.
And I was very impressed by the actor. Logan really impressed me. Just those nuances and of the choreography, the eyes, the movements, just the speech patterns. Like it was very, very impressive.
I can only imagine how hard it is to make the facial expressions of one thing while your body's doing something completely different.
It was impressive.
Right.
It really was.
Like
I give him a lot of credit for that.
Doing martial arts and fight scenes while making your face do weird things
and saying different things. And it was very peculiar. It was very peculiar to watch.
Certainly.
But it worked.
All right.
So good for him.
Hey man, let's get into our Spider-Man review, because that's
really what we're all here for, right?
That's what we're here for. We were originally just supposed to record that review. We've already been recording for close to a half hour.
I knew Dave was going to throw a curveball.
Yeah.
So.
All right, man.
Let's do it.
Let's get into that Spider-Man review. All right, man. Spider-Man, Far From Home. This is the story of Peter Parker dealing with his life post Endgame, coming to grips with school life 5 years after being blipped, as they call it.
Yeah.
So
he had fun with that.
So he's reeling with the and Marvel's already said that this is no longer a spoiler. 3 weeks after the movie came out, you can drop it anywhere you want. Marvel told you were safe. He's dealing with also the death of Tony Stark now, and having to become a larger presence in the superhero community, all the while trying to balance things like friendship, school, and the relationship that he hopes to one day have with MJ. And he goes on a class trip, and of course he decides he's going to be Spider-Man no more. And that's like that. Spider-Man 2, he was Spider-Man no more.
He
leaves
just wants
the
a vacation from his Spider-Man life. That's essentially what it is.
Right.
He just wants his school trip. He wants to get away,
but of course,
not stress about it.
Trouble finds him, and it comes in the shape of Quentin Beck, who is the superhero known as Mysterio, who brings Spider-Man in along with Nick Fury and Maria Hill to take down the elementals, which are elemental creatures who are attacking Europe and plan to bring about
from a different dimension of Earth,
to bring about the destruction of Earth. And it's following Spider-Man, stopping that. And it's, but we're going to do, obviously, like we always do, spoiler-free up front, spoilers on the back end. You know, we like to...
this is not the 5-minute-ish review. This is going to be...
a little bit longer, but we lick them in the front, poke her in the back. So, all right, so... Your first impressions, what you thought of Spider-Man Far From Home. Let's talk about this first. Did you like it more or less than Homecoming?
I think I would need a more... I would have to do with Dave and watch Homecoming
again. I did watch Homecoming again,
and I know you would
before I went.
I feel like I enjoyed Homecoming more.
So I really did. Here's my thoughts. I wasn't on board with the first half of this movie.
That's my problem.
I was not crazy about it.
The first half, for the whole setup of the film, essentially, was very long. And very blah, and very paint by numbers and cliche to some degree.
It was.
And I was really shocked for a long time that it was not picking up.
But when it got going and we got to the second half of the movie, I liked every bit of the second half of this movie more than I liked most of anything in Homecoming.
Yes, I think I agree with that.
I think
but
it was extremely
overall,
strong.
as a film, I think as far as straightforward linear filmmaking, I prefer Homecoming.
What about our
I'm still struggling with MJ. MJ's relationship, I think it's just
I like this version of her. It's different than what we've gotten before.
I know, but it's very different, and
I'm okay with that.
All I can see, so I'm simultaneously watching her right now on Euphoria on HBO, and she looks and sounds, and her personality is very much like that character. It's bothering me.
I think that's Zendaya's personality.
It's bothering me right now.
But what I like about it is it's more reflective of maybe, or at least our perception of youth of today. So like, I'm okay with it.
Maybe
I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me, and
it grew on me.
I like things to change. I'm not one of those people.
I know.
I don't need her to be white. I don't need her to have red hair.
No,
I don't need her to have big boobs.
It's got nothing to do with it. It really has nothing to do with it. It's just
I don't need her to.
Something was off.
I don't need her to act a certain way. I like the character's there, and
but the chemistry wasn't. I couldn't buy it.
I mean, let's face it. As far as comics go, as far as like
Christ, they're fucking each other right now.
As far as the storyline for Mary Jane goes, it is that Mary Jane is the eye of Peter's affection, and that's it.
And that's all it is.
And they're giving her a little bit more to do, and I'm okay with that. So, what did you think of Mysterio, the new character that they added in?
Well, I didn't know too much about him, but it was a refreshing surprise because you could tell that this character had to come out at this day and age with the technology.
Right.
You couldn't do this character justice 10 years ago. Like,
sure, we didn't because we did Iron Man 10 years ago, and he has very similar powers. So.
not as well though. Not with the effects that he can do with his full extent of his power.
How about just Jake Gyllenhaal in the role? Then that's what I'm saying.
Solid.
Yeah. I wasn't
just solid.
I wasn't crazy about Jake Gyllenhaal here.
Just solid. He didn't blow me away. I'm just fine. He was fine and solid. I'm not I'm not one way or another with him.
I think I expected
Very
more.
serviceable.
I think I expected more with it. I think I expected him to do more. You know,
I don't know if he could do much more.
when you have Jake Gyllenhaal, like I was kind of expecting it to be something like I actually really liked the Vulture as a villain in Homecoming. I liked Toombs. I liked Michael Keaton in that role. I wasn't as impressed with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I think it's mostly because of the writing.
That's 100% it.
It's not Jake.
Exactly it.
See, that's the difference, Dave. I mean, it's not so much Jake. It's more or less the writing.
Oh, yeah. And that's it.
There's a difference. So
they really, I don't know. It at some point they just, I kept expecting it to go deeper with them, and they didn't. It stayed right on the surface.
It did.
And that was for me. I was like, you expect a little bit more. The best characters are ones that you can relate to and you can understand. And here's one where like everything is just kind of on the surface.
Sure.
So
No, I understand.
even when there's a plot twist involving that character,
Right.
they still pretty much everything they do is on the surface as well.
Yeah.
It's just meh.
Tom Holland is still fantastic to me.
Love him. Love him.
I love the fact that they incorporated
Love him and
John.
his tight little tush.
Oh, heart. He looked a little bit more beefy. He looked a little bit more jacked up.
He was.
That's good.
He
That was good.
He filled out that suit a little bit.
Yeah.
Growing into your
That's
spider
important.
underoos there, are you, little guy? Huh? Super
Yeah.
Movie Brother Jay is going to watch your career with great interest.
Oh, Tommy.
Jay watching Spider-Man. He goes, "Oh, you shit with that ass." No.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding.
This is not Jay's Indie Corner, Dave. Come on.
no, so
Keep this PG.
still loving Tom Holland in the role.
And Jon Favreau, I thought it was a beautiful transition into expanding his character and his role into this franchise, which was necessary. I think this was a worthy expansion for a character that's always been very much a cameo and a little bit of a sprinkled in fun role.
Right.
It works for me.
Can we just say that like the end did a lot to fix some problems that I had? Like I had some problems, even from the trailers. I kept telling you that like, so if it goes this way, then that means Nick Fury was wrong and he's losing his touch. If it goes this way, that means Nick Fury's dumb as fuck and he's not the Nick Fury that we know anymore. They do.
There was a lot of misleading trailers.
There's a lot of misleading stuff. Tons of misleading stuff. But
ton of footage that was not in the movie.
But as much of it as was misleading, I went in there and was not surprised with anything that I got at all. And that's one of the things that like, when I left, I was like, all right, did I enjoy it? Yeah, I enjoyed it. There was things to like there. What I realized was it was lacking something. It was lacking that moment. It was lacking that like there's always that hero moment,
Yes.
that it's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, like we'll talk about another Spider-Man film, that get up moment, right? Like when he's taking on the Kingpin at the end,
right?
And like, there was no big moment for
There's
Spider-Man.
no moment that you're fast forwarding to watch,
and
get to
You know what I
see
mean?
like a 10-minute sequence or something like
Just
that.
about every MCU movie has that moment that's
And
like it's a great character moment,
Yeah.
or it's a great action sequence. This didn't have any of that. It didn't
I'm afraid
have that
that's going to
moment.
hurt its rewatchability.
Exactly. Because when I think about this, like I think about like, oh man, what part did I really love? Was it the fight at the Festival of Lights? Not really. Was it the final battle? No, the final battle was just kind of like
Too much noise,
a lot of swinging,
a lot of mess,
a
lot of stuff going on.
He swung. Yeah, he swung. Night Monkey swung around.
Oh god. That was a fun scene actually with him when he first got that suit.
Yeah, it was
with the European spy or whatever.
But that's it. Like,
anyway, so
the things
there were some moments.
Like the moments though are gags. They're not.
And they were all gags, but most of them did hit for me. I think
very gaggy.
For the most part.
Oh yeah,
but
the laughs certainly hit hard. The only thing I can tell you,
the story writing and the script overall didn't land with me. Overall.
The only thing character wise and like gag wise that bothered me was the teachers. JB Smoove was fine.
Well, because it was very self-aware.
Yeah,
and they were morons in two different degrees.
Yeah.
That's really what it was.
Right, but for the other teacher,
Which makes it work for the story in a lot of ways too, because there are plot devices as far as like trying to push along the story.
right? But I got really annoyed with Martin Starr's Mr. Harrington. Like I was just annoyed by him. And I wasn't.
It was too much.
It was because the little bit
Way too much screen time too. Like I don't know why they had that much screen time.
the little bit that he was in the first Spider-Man Homecoming, you got the fact that he was like your annoying nerdy teacher and stuff like that. He made offbeat jokes and he was just super awkward, and the little bit of screen time he had was enough for you to go like but this time, like, he's on the screen so much that I was honestly annoyed by him, because I'm like, why
really
is the camera even on him right now?
I know.
When Spider-Man is swinging around trying to stop this elemental from destroying Venice. Like, why does this matter?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It was just not necessary. I'm assuming they felt like they needed to show something like that because they needed an adult figure.
I guess, I don't know. The gag with
because they're
him
in Europe.
The gag with him on the airplane would have been enough for me, and then you just end his role for the rest of the movie. He's there, but he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like
you see his back.
But JB Smoove was just enough. Like he was right there to like say something, a quip, and then he just walked away. Like perfect.
Yeah.
But
well, he's learned a lot from Larry David.
Martin Starr, not so much. So I mean, all right. So putting all this together, the fact that we weren't crazy about the Quentin.
Yeah, we
weren't crazy
nitpicked
about
a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's worthy of nitpicking. However, it was still very much enjoyable. There was a lot of great scenes, a lot of fun sequences. There was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of Tony Stark stuff. Still,
right?
I'm done.
Yeah, right.
I'm done. There better not be anymore.
So,
and I think this is the only movie. This is supposed to be the end of Phase 3. So this is the end of
but
Phase 3.
It has to deal with that,
and it does. And I think this is the only character that warranted this little bit more of a trickle-in effect of saying goodbye to Tony and what his significance to the world. And what he did and what he's done for Peter Parker going forward, and yada, yada, yada. So, with that being said, in the beginning, I was a little too, oh God, not so much of this. Please stop. Just, that's enough. Oh, really quick, just came to me. What is with these cold opens? I hated that cold open. This is the second time they did it. It makes me think that these people are behind these stupid trailers when they're doing these trailers nowadays, when it's like 8 seconds little blips before the trailer actually starts. I hate it.
I'm okay with it. It just,
oh my God, it was terrible.
It was literally just there to show you how Nick Fury came across Mysterio.
It's ruining the flow of a film. I mean, I did not like it at all.
Jay, it's the J.J. Abrams mystery box. The cold open.
Oh, it's terrible.
Is the J.J. Abrams mystery box.
Horrible.
So, and that,
stop it. Please stop it. Yeah, that just, no.
It's
all right. So
it's fine. It doesn't bother me.
I'm just gonna give it a B. Solid B for me. I enjoyed it. It had its problems, but overall, I still like the movie. I'm still looking forward to more movies with Tom Holland playing Spider-Man, the cast, everybody. I think it's going in the right direction, but it's just a B for me. It's a solid B. I liked it.
For me, I think the stuff it did really well was growing the Spider-Man character. It did that extremely well. Expanding on the roles of his friends and all that. I enjoyed all that stuff. I like seeing Spider-Man as a kid. I'm still enjoying that. I think it ends extremely strong. It starts off a little weak, and it really needed a stronger story. It really needed a stronger villain presence, and it needed some stronger performances from its supporting actors. I wasn't even crazy about Nick Fury in this film. Wasn't crazy about how Samuel Jackson was acting.
No.
We'll get into a lot of that in spoilers, but there was just a lot of things that felt offbeat. But what it did right, it did enough right. It got the Spider-Man character right. It did enough of a story to grow him as a character. And one of the things that I really enjoyed is that it handles the universe well. I loved the whole high school news wrap up of like the blip, like life plus the blip. I liked that a lot. Had to crack it up. That was pretty funny.
There were some characters.
It handles that stuff.
Yes, there were some characters in the little friends group that worked really well.
There's one dude who was like 8. He was like 8 years old when they got blipped, and then they all come back, and he's in the same grade as they am. It's like that's the kid who shit his pants. So I think for me, I'm a little bit hotter on it than you. I would give it like a B plus. I have my issues.
I was
with
leaning
it.
towards B plus. I really was.
I give it a B plus. I think they just do such a great job of making you love the character, like the character, and root for him. And one of the things that like. It doesn't matter who the villain is in this because Spider-Man's biggest villain is always himself. He always second guesses himself, doubts himself, and they
show that quite a bit.
Right, and they get that right here. They got that right in Homecoming too. That's always a trope in the Spider-Man comics, and it's just one of those things that like it works here. Because like that's something that's inherent in the character. And it's also inherent in all teenagers to just not have confidence in yourself. And I think when you're telling a story that is about a teenager and you're trying to do your second coming of age story, you have to do something that amps it up a little bit, and they did it right. So a B plus, especially for the last half hour. I think just really just brings it home in such a nice way, literally and figuratively. So, all right, Jay, you ready to get into some spoilers?
Yeah, man.
All right, let's hit that spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
All right, man, full spoilers. Just let it out. Spoilers all over your face, neck, and chest. All right, so let's just address the thing that like really bothered me in the trailers, where I said like, if Mysterio is the villain and he's duping Nick Fury, that means that Nick Fury has lost his touch and he's dumb as fuck. And that would bother me as a character, of Nick Fury. That would bother me. Like, you need to give me an explanation for why he's lost his touch, and
it does.
It does, but it doesn't give it to you until the mid-credit scene.
But it was interesting because it was played slightly different.
It was
slightly off, and he's slightly more hammy and slightly more. It was very nuanced.
Even his beard,
looked
a little bit more like unkempt. Like he looked less Nick Fury here.
Exactly.
And I was like, it was almost like he was walking different. He wasn't as smooth and stuff like that.
I give Samuel L. Jackson a lot of credit for that.
He was a little bit
very
more
subtle.
Right. He was a little bit more schwarmy than he's used to than he normally is, and he's a little bit more fluid. The mid-credit scene we're obviously talking about is where you find out the Skrulls are actually Maria Hill and Nick Fury
working for Nick because he wants to be on vacation and let's just take it easy for a while after all that shit. The shit show of Endgame.
Exactly.
And the blip and all that stuff.
Yeah. So we get to see our Skrull buddy from Captain Marvel back here again, and it is obviously again it's being played by Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
It was a nice little surprise.
It was a nice surprise because I was like, okay, that took one of my major problems with this movie and just immediately lifted it off my shoulders. I might have been a B minus but then that scene shows up and I'm like, that is nice.
That is a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, that is a very good point. So, all right. Also, like I said, with the whole MJ stuff, for the most part, it did bother me, especially in the beginning and the setup of it all, and her personality just wasn't. I didn't see the chemistry.
I will admit, it
got to me towards the end. I saw her care. That's all I really needed. I saw her starting to actually care about Peter and want to know what's going on with him. And even when she does confront him, I thought it was exchanged really, really well, and the way it all worked out.
I'll be honest, as much as I like her as MJ and as much as I like her role and stuff like that and the character in these films, all of her best lines were already in the trailer. Everything that was great about her in this movie was mostly in the trailer, except for when she's carrying a battle mace to Peter on the Tower Bridge in London. Yeah. And other than that, like most of her big moments were in there. But it was nice to see them kind of like give give love a shot, and to skip the whole Gwen Stacy thing, which we just got in the previous Sony films with Andrew Garfield.
But their friend's storyline was the best.
Their friend's storyline was nice. But all right, so let's talk about the end credits scene now, where Peter goes on a date. He's wearing a new suit this time, by the way. He's wearing a different suit than he was, obviously, in the beginning. He's wearing the Iron Spider outfit that he had in Endgame. Then later on, we see him in his... We see that his aunt,
his monkey suit,
that his aunt packed him his suit that he had
traditional
in
neighborhood
Homecoming.
Spider-Man
exactly
suit.
Then we see him in the night monkey suit, in the stealth Spider-Man suit, and then he makes his own. Which actually, when he makes his own, he makes the spider in the center a little bit more techie looking,
techie with white in the back,
with
a white spider in the back,
which I felt like was a little bit of an homage to the PS4 Spider-Man video game, which just came out recently. So I felt that was a little bit of homage to that. So he gets this, he puts on this new suit, and then at the end he's actually wearing another new suit with more black in it than blue, and he goes on a date with MJ, and I liked it that he takes her for a swing, and then she's just not happy with it, and then the ball drops that Quentin Beck, obviously who was the bad guy the whole time, he was using special effects to create these elementals, has made a video that basically names Spider-Man as the bad guy the entire time. And of course, who picks it up but a young, plucky reporter, J. Jonah Jameson, who's played by none other than J.K. Simmons. I fucking went nuts. I literally clapped in the theater because I was so... Now, the rumor was that he was cast again as J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah. And then it was that rumor. It's not like anyone denied it, but you didn't hear anything about it ever again. It wasn't anything that was harped on. People never like searched for confirmation on it or anything like that. It was just a rumor. It got quashed. And then you see him here and he's talking about Spider-Man is a villain.
It was beautiful. And it was a great surprise.
And
it was one of the claps that I saw. Besides, the Led Zeppelin movie music coming on and stuff like that, there was another clap.
It was the Go-Go's. It was the Go-Go's.
It was good. It was great.
I immediately looked at my wife and I went, "Miss Bryant, give me a violin." Because that's J. Jonah to me. I love how he is in the comics and stuff like that. I love his portrayal in the 90s cartoon and stuff. But after I saw the Raimi Spider-Man films, J. Jonah Jameson could only ever be played by J.K. Simmons.
Only J.K.
And when they had him back again, and it's another status quo for Spider-Man being added to this universe. Status quo of Spider-Man is that the Daily Bugle is always against him. They're always painting him as a menace, a villain, and everything like that. And, Peter's always the one that's trying to talk to J. Jonah and tell him no, he's the hero. He's trying to help. And he's like, yeah, well, he did this. How's that helping? It was always, he's always out to get Spider-Man.
What do you think of the reveal
status quo
for Peter Parker? That's not normal.
So
in the lineage of comics, right? Especially this early on
in comics. Anytime someone has a secret identity, this always happens. It's happened to Spider-Man dozens of times. Happened to Batman dozens of times. All that has to happen is he has to have someone else wear that suit while he is present, and he gets to put that all to bed. And I was thinking about this. Remember Iron Man 3? Iron Man controlled a suit without Tony Stark being inside of it. Who says that Spider-Man can control the Iron Spider suit without him being in it? There's ways around this. That doesn't have to be an element in the next movie that people know who he is. However, one of the things Nick Fury was telling him was that he has to hold on to his identity, but he also has to just embrace who he is. And Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and he is an Avenger, and he kind of has to embrace that. And most of the other Avengers don't have secret identities, so.
It was that was the most surprising for me.
Yeah,
that twist. But they were actually going to reveal.
But for me, that is so. If you're reading if this was a 4 to 6 issue arc of a comic book, that is exactly how a comic book would end to lead you into the next arc. Which I thought was just nice. It's a nice hook. It's a nice cliffhanger. But it's probably going to be quickly resolved in the next film, or something that they just kind of drop a line about how it was resolved. That he even said there is no physical proof of it. There's no physical proof that he's Spider-Man. It's just the words of Quentin Beck coming to light. Not to mention Nick Fury is still on his side. Speaking of Nick Fury,
well, let me get into this first.
Nick Fury is still in the movie and not played by Ben Mendelsohn this time.
What do you think about the whole political message underlying throughout this movie about the media? Don't believe everything you read or see. Like that it's kind of apparent.
Look, this is a guy who you're talking to, a guy who sometimes flirts with the idea that maybe we didn't land on the moon. So, like, do I trust the media? Not about as long as my dick is, which isn't very long at all. Okay, so
I'm just saying.
I
thought it was very
It's pathetic.
I thought it was very in your face about that.
It was pretty. Yeah, it pretty much was.
Yeah.
When I was talking about getting you're talking about the media and stuff like that, and Quentin Beck like bending the media to meet his needs and stuff like that. I kind of liked the meta-ness of that, where it's like I told them you wrote this ridiculous story.
It makes sense with the character as well,
right? Where he's like you told me he talks to so first off to create Mysterio, it wasn't just him. It's basically this team of writers and other people all fired from Stark Tech. And let's face it, there's nothing like this movie is about Peter Parker passing Tony Stark passing the torch to Peter Parker. There is nothing more Tony Stark than having to clean up your own mess and call it hero work. If you think about it, because Iron Man 2, he kind of created Ivan Vanko, and all those drones and the drone technology and stuff like that. When you get to Iron Man 3, he at points he's fighting his own suits, and
right.
and the trauma that he wrought on Killian. Whatever his name is, who became, with extremists and stuff like that. He's cleaning up his own mess. Ultron, he's cleaning up his own mess. So there's nothing more Tony Stark than causing your own problem and then having to clean it up and calling it hero work. And that's exactly what Peter does here. He gives up the Edith glasses, which are pretty much like a god button to start a war on anybody or anything or any country that you want to, which is complete Tony Stark ego on display, floating in space. And Peter gives them up, and the guy turns out to be a villain. It's a mess that Peter created, and he has to clean up, and he does it well. And it's like that. There's nothing more Tony Stark than that, Peter. You just learned your number one lesson. When you fuck up, punch it in the face hard enough, do a lot of web swinging, and you'll come out smelling like a rose, kid. Because that's what Tony Stark always did. You may lack his charisma, but you got his penchant for fuck ups and cleaning it up. But I actually, when I said I didn't like Jake Gyllenhaal, I wasn't crazy about like his that moment he's giving that over the top speech with everybody and he's standing on the bar. I felt nothing for that.
That was the big pivot at that moment.
Right. It was the nice big pivot, but it was also a massive,
it was startling
exposition dump.
It was huge dump. Did you really have to go to each and every single person explain the reason?
I did get a kick of the fact that it was the guy from Iron Man 1 where he says, Tony Stark built this in a cave.
Yeah. The dude with the stash.
I'm not Tony Stark. And that guy got fired. So and everyone there was fired by Tony Stark at some point, fired from Stark Industries.
It was kind of interesting to see those characters.
Right.
Back.
So,
but
I get that.
And the heavy amount of drones and
the drones are not a fun villain for me.
No, it was just it was heavily reliant on that.
Yeah.
Now the sequences shot of his trippiness to Spidey and all.
You like that?
I did. It worked for me because I thought it was really fucking crazy.
I thought that was overly. It was
over the top, but I thought it was effective.
I like the aesthetic of it, and I like the idea of it. It reminded me a lot of when I play.
That's what I'm talking about.
When I play the Batman Arkham games, when you go into a dream realm that the Scarecrow sends you to, right? It's very Mysterio. It's very much akin to what the villain's done to Spider-Man in the comics and stuff. So I dug all that.
Yeah.
But as far as the CGI goes. There's that moment where all the Spider-Men are jumping on top of Spider-Man, and it's very close, and it just looks like it looks like 15 to 20 just red balls bouncing off of Spider-Man's back, and I'm like, that's a little wonky, man. What animation studio in Korea did that one?
That's nitpicking. I know.
I
understand. I agree with that.
But Jay,
however,
this is a top level
they had
Hollywood
it a lot.
blockbuster.
They had that a lot though. They had it a lot. And the funny thing is, he would credit that. He would credit it to look perfect and make it look real.
So
all of his technology.
So for you, a little backstory on what Mysterio is. Mysterio is a character. His name's Quentin Beck. He's kind of like this catch-all. He's a special effects artist, actor. He's a direct, like he's basically involved in films. He's also an illusionist and stuff like that. And he uses his skills in that to be a criminal. So in this, he wasn't quite that. He wasn't like a failed actor and stuff like that.
It's close enough.
Right, but he was definitely a showman. You saw how he wanted to present his Stark technology, and Tony Stark did it and left him to the side, and he did it for him, and then named it Barf. Which is funny, which is a funny way to talk about it. But anyway, so he uses that to his advantage here to become that charismatic leader that all these, despondent, disgruntled Stark ex-employees needed to rally around to take their vengeance on their dead, fallen, villain to them. Tony Stark was a villain to them. And what the scenes that I really liked with Quentin Beck was when he was like directing his scenes before he goes out there to London, where he's like directing that scene. He's like, no, I need more damage over here. And he's like, rewind it, and he's like doing editing like on the fly and stuff. I felt like that was the Quentin Beck I wanted to see the whole time. But the whole time, like, towards the end of this movie and I'm watching it, I was like, okay, so he plans all this stuff out, right? Like all these things out, and when everything's going to pop up, when everything's going to happen, he has to plan everything out to such a level of detail that it almost seems like impossible to be able to be done.
Well, not just that. I did appreciate that too. I liked that energy. I liked that creativity. However, I didn't buy this supposedly originally a good guy not giving a shit about any human life after that. Like, it was all about
I don't think he said he didn't say he was a good guy. There's no point
he was working for Tony Stark. I mean, he was like obviously just very
he worked for
self-involved as far as his technology and wanting to expand.
At no point in this movie do they even allude to the fact that he was a good person. He was just a man who felt slighted, slighted enough that he would then.
Most people aren't going to be going to that kind of level.
Jay, he was like. He was such a terrible person before Tony Stark even fired him that when he got fired, instead of pulling up his britches and getting another job, he decided that he was going to dupe the world by getting every former Stark employee he could find with an axe to grind, and then basically becoming a terrorist. So who's to say he was not a good person beforehand? There's nothing to give you evidence of that. Especially if he's the type of person who would just go out and be like, you know what, Tony Stark fucked me. Now I'm going to become the greatest hero.
It was just
fuck the world too.
I just didn't buy that villainous energy from Jake. Maybe that was one of the downfalls for Jake for me. But I just didn't feel the cutthroat. No,
and that's one of my when I was saying that I had problems with
even though he brought it up. He even said like, "Oh, it's gonna really hurt me, Peter. I really didn't want to do this, but like, you're making me do this. I got to kill you and your friends now." And
but he said it without emotion. So, but one of the things that I didn't like was when we were talking earlier, I said I wasn't crazy about him as a character. Really, what I meant was I wasn't crazy about him as a villain, because when we get to him as the villain at the end, he turns into a mustache twirling, just like archetype villain, like right there in front of us and stuff, where I felt like almost no emotion and no connection between them. And like, I kind of want there to be a little bit of emotion and connection between them. Like, I actually want him to be like, I don't really want to kill you, Peter, but I have this plan and I need to see it through, and you're the only thing in my way. What I got more or less was what you were doing. Well, I didn't really want to kill you, but so since you're here and you're bothering me, I'm gonna shoot you. And of course, Peter gets over that. But that's the type of stuff that I wasn't crazy about in it.
It didn't sit well with me.
But of course, Nick Fury's still Nick Fury, man. He's just on vacation. He is chilling out on that satellite out there in space, man. Just out in space. Just out in space, baby. I was wondering, like, towards the end of this, like, when they show him on the space station or on the spaceship, I was like, is this SWORD? Because SWORD is the planetary defense system that is a branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. that exists out in space, and it's on a satellite that orbits. So I was
wondering if you knew about that. I wasn't sure.
Because get it? shield on Earth, sword in space.
Yeah.
Sword and shield.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all, you get it.
I got you.
You get it.
I mean, now he's like, dancing around with Captain Marvel on his side now, so
Right. I mean, he
can go anywhere.
He's gonna kick back and relax. What if they have a relationship with each other?
Mm.
Like, what if there's a romantic thing between those two, between Brie Larson and Samuel Jackson?
Mean,
I feel like they have the chemistry with one another to do it, to pull it
why
off.
wouldn't it be with that other girl, his assistant,
Maria Hill? Nah, that's a working relationship, man. Nah, I don't think so.
They're not getting out. They need to get their rocks off somehow.
All right, let's stop fanboy shipping stuff but I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's Samuel Jackson. He's the baddest motherfucker in the galaxy.
True.
He can get any woman he wants. If he wanted,
It's true.
if he wanted Captain Marvel, he could have her as long as she wanted him too. So. But anyway, so yeah, Spider-Man: Homecoming. There's a ton of these like little moments and stuff we can talk about and we can discuss.
Yeah.
But like, those are like the big major spoiler things and stuff, and those are the things that like really bothered me. But a lot of the stuff I really like too. So that's going to do it for Super Movie Brothers tonight. I want to thank all of you guys for listening. I know we didn't get to drop like a lot of our sponsors and stuff like that, so I guess I should do that here. Super Movie Brothers is brought to you by Blowfish. Blowfish is the only FDA-approved hangover cure. It's 2 tablets that you drop into 8 to 12 ounces of water. Drink it down. Your hangover starts to feel better immediately. So, if you spent an entire weekend crying over the death of your dog before it even happened, and you had to go to work Monday morning for what you knew was going to be a hell week of a grind, and you just wanted to make sure that you got yourself nice and toasty over the weekend because you weren't going to be able to muster up the strength when you got home to even pick up a beer. But you wake up Monday morning and you turn out to be you turn out to be hungover anyway. Make sure that you head over to forhangovers.com. Use the promo code SMBFish. Get your 15% off of this miracle hangover cure. Super Movie Brothers is also brought to you by the Podcoin app. Podcoin app is a podcast streaming app where you get to earn a little bit for the podcast that you listen to. For every podcast you listen to, you earn points. Those points can be converted into gift cards or can be donated to charities around the world. So download the Podcoin app on iOS or Android and start earning a little bit for all that hardcore podcast listening that you do. Super Movie Brothers is also part of the Podfix Network. Head over to podfixnetwork.com. Check out all the shows that are part of the Podfix Network. And then you can also check out all of our movie cocktail recipes on there. You just go to the menu, click down, go to the movie cocktails tab, and you'll see a bunch of our recipes up there. One final thing, I need to just plea to everyone's better nature, maybe your giving spirit. I don't know. It's Christmas in July. We need the nature boy, Jay. We need a little favor. We need some iTunes reviews, as many as you can give us. Just all of them. Just a little boy on the side of the road with a sign that says "We'll work for food." You know that means I'm looking for sex. And
Preferably 5 stars and mostly positive remarks about, obviously Dave, but
have a heart. Throw it to us.
Yeah.
It's the only way we can grow. It's the only way that the show can get found by others. And if you can't join the Patreon, we understand. Money's tight for everybody, but leaving that review is free. So please head over to iTunes, drop us one of those 5-star reviews if you're enjoying the show. If you listen regularly and you haven't done it, please do so as soon as possible. We need you because Jay has lost 3 pounds, guys.
I know.
He's starving. he needs it. He needs it. I want to thank all of you guys for listening. Have a great night. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Miss Brandt,
Yes.
get me a violin.